It's a new season, it's a new show. I began the month by heading out to my grandma's house, which is a pretty long trip from my home. I was kind of burnt out of social media, this whole cycle of doing things or experiencing stuff just for the sake of tweeting about it, and I needed a quick little vacation to unwind. That's why I didn't bring any piece of technology along with me except a dinky Kindle book reader on which there was only one new book, Death Note: Another Note. Or Death Note: Another Note, the Los Angeles BB Murder Case. What the hell is that title? The reason I picked up this book is because one of my close mates had recently started Death Note, and that was just the excuse I needed to revisit the series and read the novel I had put off for so long. However, Another Note is written by Nishio Isin, and although I absolutely love the Monogatari series, I was kinda underwhelmed by the work he had done for JoJo's. Over Heaven, or as a lot of people in the fandom call it, the Dio novel, had some interesting ideas, but at the end it didn't expand on most of them and felt a bit boring. I was worried that the same kind of writing would be present in Another Note, and sadly, I was kinda right. But to give credit where it's due, the story starts off pretty strong. It takes place before the events of the original Death Note, following the character Naomi Misora as she works on a murder case with L, which was even foreshadowed in the anime. She's tasked to uncover the murder of a series of locked room killings who presumably leaves no clues whatsoever. Her chemistry with Elle is fun to read, and the mystery is pretty interesting for the most part, but where it goes downhill is the second half. You see, Nishio Isin has this obsession with tirelessly explaining minute and tiny details of his stories which add nothing to the overall plot. Instead of focusing on the aspects of the story which the readers love to know more about, like Elle's past, the Wami's house, or the all-new mysterious antagonist B, he just spends time talking about the mindless details of the locked rooms which we already know about. It got so bad to the point I speedran the last 20 pages or so just to get to the ending and be done with it. But to be honest, maybe it's because I don't read that many mystery novels, and you'll probably enjoy it a lot more than I did, as evident by the scores on Mal. For me at least, the story fell apart towards the end, but it still had a satisfying ending. If you're a fan of Death Note, definitely check it out. Happiness kept me up at night. Genuinely, whenever I finished reading a volume and wanted to buy M, which now that I'm thinking about it, I shouldn't have, I spent time in bed thinking about the characters, story, and how it would play out in the end. The people in this manga feel so real, their feelings so tangible, that you can't help but engulf in their sorrow, and most of it is due to the amazing art of Shuzo Oshimi. It's insane thinking about how all of these pages are drawn by hand, on top of the monthly release date, plus writing its thrilling narrative. But it's not just the art, as Oshimi completely bends the rules of manga on his head with his amazing paneling. I know, the way the panels are situated against each other is probably the last thing you'd care about while reading a comic book, but just watch how he tells his story simply by the way the panels are drawn. He usually uses pure black panels to convey loneliness or pain, or how by separating these two with a panel tells the reader that no matter how dependent they may be on each other, it hasn't equated to true love or trust. And there are also times where he goes sicko mode. But besides that, the manga is filled with so many tiny little details that add so much to its magical atmosphere I've rarely seen in pieces of fiction. I only gave a few examples because I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. You'll probably need a box of tissues, but it'll be totally worth it. I remember back when I was a child, I watched TV for two reasons. One was a Persian show called Befarmay Chum, but genuinely I don't know why I was so addicted to it, and the second was Cartoon Network. Shows like Clarence, Uncle Grandpa, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Legends of Chimo, which sucked ass, and so much more had practically had me glued to the TV. But there was a special cartoon that left a lasting impression on me, and that was Regular Show. I absolutely love Regular Show. Its comedy is something I still enjoy to this very day. It has a lovable cast of characters, and it explored themes that wowed my ding-dong brain at that time. So when I heard that the legend himself, J.G. Quintel, is making a spiritual successor to Regular Show, which is more catered towards adults, I was really excited. Unfortunately, it was exactly that. The show revolves around the family Josh, Emily, and Candace, who live with the divorced couple Bridget and Alex, following them as they have to deal with reaching adulthood and the responsibilities it brings. Close Enough genuinely is one of the most hilarious shows I've seen in a while, one that easily makes me laugh. It explores topics such as getting old, love, and friendship, which are portrayed beautifully but don't intrude on the more comedic side of the cartoon. The art style is near identical to that of regular show, and I guess growing up in that era helped me appreciate it a lot more. But don't worry, as Close Enough bravely stands on its own as one of the best HBO Max shows, and you needn't have to watch any other works before it. Definitely check it out. If there is a more compelling portrait of forgiveness in art, I've yet to find it, is what Joel Haver said in his Letterboxd review for Close Up, a film by Abbas Kiarostami. Having read this a few months ago, it intrigued me to watch the movie myself, and being Persian, I always heard the talk about Kiarostami, so it was high time I finally gave one of his movies a chance. And it was incredible. The film is basically a retelling of a real-life event that happened in Tehran back in the 80s, where a man named Hossein Sabzian impersonated a famous director called Mohsen Makhmalbaf, deceiving a family into believing they would star in his new movie. For what reason though is up to you to find out, as the film beautifully unravels it through its very much real characters. It's very difficult for me to explain, but there's just a sense of wonder, melancholy, and intrigue woven into the movie itself that makes it so engaging. Although 90% of it is just people sitting down and talking to each other, as you progress through it, you're just captivated scene by scene and interested at what's gonna happen next. Definitely give this movie a shot, you won't regret it. Don't think about us. Don't look back. Don't give in to nostalgia. Forget about us. If you come back, don't come and see me. I will let you in. Thank you for everything you've done. Seeing an extremely low resolution picture of this scene deeply resonated with me, which led me to watching it. Don't give in to nostalgia. That's such an interesting sentence I feel all of us can relate to one way or the other. Some of us have been in abusive relationships, places we've hated, or jobs that had no sense of fulfillment and ultimately had to leave them, despite abandoning the comfort they made us feel. Cinema Paradiso is about a lot of things, but mostly this very concept of moving forward, not looking back on the past, and doing what you love despite the circumstances, and it portrays it magnificently. So good in fact that although I try to avoid sentences like the best movie I've seen or the best game I've ever played, it genuinely might be the greatest work of cinema I've ever witnessed. The story is about a boy named Toto who lives in a small village in Italy. Being absolutely in love with movies, he creeps into the town cinema to sneak a peek of the uncensored versions of the movies shown there, and even spends all of his allowance on those same movies to watch them again. It's here that he makes friends with Alfredo, the projectionist of the place. The two quickly grow close with each other, and Toto eventually takes over the place. Cinema Paradiso made me cry every 20 minutes or so and was proud of it. It thrived on it, complete with its remarkable soundtrack. It's a fairly simple movie exploring simple ideas shot in a very simple setting, but it transcended what I thought films are capable of, and that's well remembered forever. I rarely consume horror media. It's not that I dislike them or anything, but more so that I never seek them out or have come upon a piece that has truly wowed me. The next manga I'm about to show you completely changed that. Blood on the Tracks, which is the second Shuzo Oshimi manga I've put on here, truly disturbed me. And I'm not saying disturbed like watching a scary movie and suddenly a ghost pops into frame, no. I say disturbed because I could genuinely hear the sound of my heartbeat as I flipped through the manga page by page. As I said in the previous segment about happiness, Oshimi is a master at creating atmospheres, something I've rarely seen in fiction. He spends so much time meticulously crafting his stories that it's honestly kinda scary. Every plot point slowly gets resolved, every tiny detail is there for a reason, and there are so many layers to his main characters that it's pretty easy to just engross yourself in them. The only problem I have is that the main focus is on Seiko herself. Ooh boo-hoo, the main story is about the main character, I get that. But everyone else in the story is really underdeveloped, like Sei's dad. The guy just sees abuse and weird stuff happen on the daily, and his best reaction is always like, I'ma head out. Like, come on man, pay attention to your child a bit. A lot of the problems in the plot would have been easily solved if the dad would just simply talk to his son, or his other family members. And I know, in Japan and pretty much most of the world, it's usually the mother's job to take care of the children, especially in Japan where the men work so many hours, and yes, Blood on the Tracks is portraying a very much real but at the same time an exaggerated and extreme case of family abuse. but it doesn't mean we have to shy away from the weaker aspects of the manga, so bear that in mind before you dive into it. But besides that, honestly, Wadachi is a masterpiece in horror. I will definitely never reread it and burn the manga volumes to the ground, don't get me wrong, but it shows humans at their most fragile and broken state. Especially now where we are constantly surrounded by works that depict humans with special powers and superhuman strength, which I absolutely love, don't get me wrong. JoJo is my favorite manga. It's also equally important to show human beings at their most vulnerable state, reminding people to be thoughtful of each other. And I appreciate Blood on the Tracks for that.